when you get into innovation, you realize you just got to kind of pause the brakes a little bit, because stuff always takes longer than you think it's going to. And just because it's your number one goal, but it's not everybody's number one goal. So you got to kind of be patient with people and realize that, they have other things they're working on, but at the same time, you kind of got to keep on them a little bit to keep the process going.
Welcome to the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and I'm so excited that you're here. The Plan B CRNA podcast is the only show made specifically for nurse anesthetists who are exploring options outside of their traditional career paths. This is the place to expand your mind and your goals as we uncover new ways to produce side income together. Join me for some honest, unscripted discussions with other CRNAs who are transforming their financial lives. This episode is brought to you by On-Call Capital. On-Call Capital is dedicated to educating CRNAs and other healthcare providers about investing outside of the traditional stock market. On-Call Capital also provides opportunities for you, yes, you, to create passive income and generational wealth while also lowering your taxable income through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure you do that right now so that you don't miss an episode. Thanks so much for joining me today. And now, on with the show. Welcome to another Provider Spotlight episode of the Plan B CRNA podcast. My guest today is a CRNA who has just gone through the development phase of his own airway, and he's here to help others avoid some of those expensive pitfalls that inventors often face. Heath Paulsen has been a CRNA for 13 years, a Chief CRNA in Iowa and in the Army Reserve. He's deployed with FST to Afghanistan and Germany, and he's been on multiple mission trips as well. Heath developed the Paulsen Airway, the only self-suctioning airway that's on the market. He's using funds from the Paulsen Airway to allow mission surgery teams to have the same capabilities as military surgical teams have. Thanks so much for joining me today, Heath. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, you obviously...
That's your podcast. It's been good listening to you.
Cool, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's always fun to have new people on and to hear those stories. And, you obviously have a lot of anesthesia experience in many different areas. So I guess the question for me is, when did you get the idea for this airway?
About 4 or 5 years ago. I've always, with healthcare to me has always kind of thrived off of redundancy. We've always had multiple products for one job. Growing up as a farm kid, we used like a lot of our equipment, stuff like that. We used it for multiple applications. But in healthcare, it just seemed kind of crazy to me that we're using 3 or 4 products when all we need is just one to use that with. So do a lot of ENT work, and working with them, I always thought it was kind of crazy that we'd be in the ENT room and we would have like a tonsil or something like that. And I could never figure out, is there blood sitting in the back of the airway, the hypopharynx, so then you almost have to introduce another suction device into that airway where you could cause more bleeding, just to find out if that patient can actually protect their own airway, and also that there's not a lot of blood sitting back there. So what I did was just pretty much took one device that you can put in the airway, insert it one time, and it won't increase any other bleeding, anything like that. You can suction up to it and get all that out of there pretty quickly, efficiently, and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I love that it is such a simple concept. I love products that are elegant in their simplicity. They're solving a problem. They're taking care of an issue that you've been trying to do workarounds with for all this time,
Yeah. So that's the big thing I think that CRNAs really need to kind of understand is there's gaps in there between engineering and the people that are actually using the product. And how many times every CRNA has been out there and they said, I can make this device better. Well, you can, because an engineer probably invented that, and there are gaps in there that aren't closed, and there's a lot of need for innovation.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. And it is something, I look at this and, some of the other airways that I've had on or just the different inventions that come out. And, CRNAs are really contributing a lot to kind of revolutionizing how we go about airway management. I think it's a really cool thing.
For sure. We're the professionals. We use it every single day. So we definitely see the the drawbacks to each thing. So
yeah. Now, how many prototypes did you kind of have to go through in order to bring this to fruition?
oh man, it took me about 5 or 6 prototypes. I had a lot of engineers tell me that it could not be done.
Really?
Yeah, because this is actually an injected molded product.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 types of injection molding. There's injection molding and then there's blow molding. So like injection molding is like your toys and stuff like that, just the little pieces in there. And they can only there's pins that are injected into there. So you can only have such a curve on there. And then another type of like if you get, so that's how the Berman Airways are made, are by injection molding. And then if you go more towards like the Goodell Airways, those are like with a blow mold. So a blow mold is something similar to like a pop bottle or something like that.
Okay.
So you got to understand the engineering behind it. And with this product, they had a hard time making the actual inner cannula of it.
Yeah.
And make it, because what they have to do is have a pin on the front, and they can only get to about here before with the injection molding. So it took a long time. We had to find some engineers that could do that, and that helped when I got hooked up with MedSource Labs. They develop a lot of products for people, and they have their own products also, but they kind of hooked me up with some engineers and stuff like that, and got through that process.
What was that back and forth like with those engineers? I mean, what was that experience like? How long did that take?
Oh, it takes months to about a year.
Yeah.
It takes a lot longer than people. When you get into innovation, you realize you just got to kind of pause the brakes a little bit, because stuff always takes longer than you think it's going to. And just because it's your number one goal, but it's not everybody's number one goal. So you got to kind of be patient with people and realize that, they have other things they're working on, but at the same time, you kind of got to keep on them a little bit to keep the process going.
Now, what kind of a reception has the device received so far?
Oh, really good. We actually just got nominated for one of the top innovations at EMS World.
Nice.
So it's making some waves in the EMS world, and we're just kind of getting going on the anesthesia side of it.
Very cool. Very cool, man. Well, I'm wondering too, like, obviously you're up for this award. That's a big deal. You're going to get some marketing out of that. But what does it look like trying to market this device so far?
During COVID, it was really tough because you can't get reps into hospitals. So I'm actually have a licensing contract with MedSource Labs out of Minnesota. And it's hard for them to get reps like Henry Schein, some of those bigger companies, Medline. They couldn't they can't get reps in to actually give providers the products that they need.
Okay.
So COVID was kind of a big drawback, and that's probably why it took more on like the 3 to 4 years to kind of get going, because a lot of the supply chain, all that stuff kind of put a pause on it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that slowed everything down.
Oh, it did. And you had to really be patient too, because you got to realize that, there's so many dynamics around it. So
Well, and I think that's the thing that has always amazed me, how complicated a simple thing, a seemingly simple thing can be. And, the process of invention, going through and the trademarking process and all of that kind of stuff too. Is this a device? Are you trademarking this? Has it been trademarked?
Yes, trademarked and it's patented also.
Okay. Well, tell me all about that, because I'm sure that's interesting.
So the trademarking is pretty easy. That's just kind of your name and stuff like that. And Paulsen Airway, we went through a couple different names, but the company actually said, you developed it, the Berman Airway. I think you really need to have your name on it. So I kind of took their guidance on that. The patenting process, that's the big thing that the number one question you get is, I have this product, I have this idea, but I don't want somebody to steal it, right? Well, there's a lot of things you can do for free. The number one thing that I can tell everybody is get on Google Patents. It's got everything on there, pretty much every patent that's been, and it's free. All you need to do is go on there and start searching every single name around your airway, oral airway, suctioning device, suctioning airway. Just start thinking of terms that could associate your device to another product. So then you're not spending a lot of money with lawyers, because if it is something and you do find a device like that, you got to think about it. Can I, is my product different than this one? Can I legally, when it starts going to the patent lawyer, can I, when they start going to the the patent lawyers and stuff like that, can we differentiate this product from another thing? Is there an advantage to it? Is there disadvantages to it? Like, you need to be able to differentiate your product from other things.
Okay. What would
And
you
then
say?
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And then when you get into then as you go farther with that, now you start to get a patent lawyer involved. Okay. And the first thing they're going to want to do is the same exact thing that you just got done doing. They're gonna they'll have a company that just goes out and does a patent search for you.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much redundant, exactly what you just got done doing. And then they'll find other products and say, these are the ones that and it'll be between $500 to $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll come out and they'll say, these are the products that, the government's going to come back and say, the patent office is going to come back and say, these are the products that you're going to have to go up against.
Okay.
And then now you start to think about, all right, can I differentiate my product from these products, So now you have more eyes on it. So, because I think what a lot of people do is they try to reinvent the wheel a lot of times. A lot of the products that are coming out, they're 10 to 20% just a little different from what people are using. So a lot of times people don't have to have a whole new innovation. They just need to have the products just tweaked a little bit. And those are the ones that you see, because when providers are looking at products, if they don't understand the product from the start, it's kind of confusing. So they almost got to have a little bit of familiarity with a product. With ours, it's the oral airway, so it feels exactly like a normal oral airway. So they already feel like it's the normal thing that they're used to using. So that's kind of the thing, is you don't have to get so complex with devices and products. You just kind of simplify the product and simplify the procedure for the provider.
Very cool. Yeah, I agree with you there, because I can't tell you how many times you're in the operating room and you're cobbling together a couple of different things and trying to create one device. Yeah. And that's kind of what you've done is you've taken this device and you've just simplified it. You've brought several into one, and so that's I think that's something that helps everybody.
For sure.
So, cool, man. Well, you mentioned there a little bit of the cost with the patent lawyer. What are some of the other costs that you've had to incur along the way, and what is it that you're paying for along the way when you're developing this?
I think the big things is just your prototypes. First off, you got to be able to see if you can make the product, because it's got to be cost effective. With our product, it's pretty simple, because I'm taking 3 products that the companies are going to be spending on, and they're going to be getting it down into one product. Mm-hmm. So they're saving money all together. But oral airways are costing between 50 cents and $1, and then suction devices, Yankars and stuff like that will be $1 or $2, and ours are coming under $2, and they're going to be driving down into lower dollars into cents pretty soon. But you got to be able to, can I make a market share with this product? Because it's got to be cost effective. You can have the best product in the world, but if it's a $7 airway, they're going to be,
yeah.
Because even though the customers want it, the providers want it, is the hospital willing to spend that money on it?
Yeah, the answer is normally no. It's too expensive.
I know. Yeah.
They will generally go with the cheaper option for sure. So, well, so we've kind of danced around it, but I wanted to get into some of those challenges you faced along the way. We talked a little bit about COVID, but what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced, and trying to help other people avoid those pitfalls?
I think the big thing is making sure that this product can be manufactured cheap, because a lot of prototypes that come out, they're 3D printed. So even though they come back with a prototype, it looks perfect. Right now, my airway was very, very simple, but 3D printing has not taken off. Like it will, but at this point, you still have to go back to the old manufacturing methods. And with that, you need to start. Now you have to think about your product. Is there ways I can change it? Engineers say I can't do it, so now you have to go get another engineer involved. Now you got to make sure that you're not spending too much money with engineers and really simplifying the product and saying, do I need all this extra stuff in there? Because it needs to be, it can be very complex products, but you really have to have it simplified so that you can get the normal processes that a lot of companies are using with products already.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool, man. I did want to get into a little bit about your mission work.
Yeah.
That's something that obviously it's a big part of your life and it drives you, but what is it that drives that in you? Where have you been? What all have you seen?
So I think the big thing is I've been a lot of different places with the military, Middle East or Southeast Asia, Southwest Asia, and then also Germany a couple times, Guatemala, that Central America area. And I've been fortunate really to see the differences of how anesthesia is delivered in different areas.
Mhm.
With the government, you have all the money, you have a lot of money behind you to get the products that you need. They're very simple. I mean, you can be using draw-over anesthesia machines out in the middle of nowhere. So you can't always use the most complex stuff out there. But when you start going on the mission work, you're fitting the bill a lot of times. There are corporations that come out and they'll help you, but you're already, you're probably spending $1,000 or two. Like these providers, when they go on these missions, some of them spending $1,000 to $2,000 of their own money to start. And then now you have to get your drugs across the border, medications, all your equipment. And a lot of the times that stuff can be donated, but some missions are just starting up and there's a lot of upfront costs to that.
Yeah. So what is the difference then between some of the mission work and some of the military work? You talked about having, perhaps less complex devices to work with, but what kind of conditions are you seeing in each place? And what are you trying to improve upon?
What I'm trying to do is I created a donor advisory fund. I can go into that between that and the foundation, why I went to that in a little bit. But the main thing I want to do is have CRNAs a fund. I created a fund called the Anesthesia Mission Fund. And what that does is when CRNAs go out to the fields, I want to be able to give them the added resources so they can get, or the added funds so they can get the equipment that they need when they're starting up these missions, the airways, the medications, like all the stuff that they can have from that we're using here in the United States or in the military. I want them to be able to have that access and not worry about the monetary, conditions when they're trying to get these things started. Because I want to see people. It's given me back so much in my life with things, so I really want to be able to have people experience it in SRNAs, being able to go down there and do things and help them out, trying to give them the funding to help trying to get them out there and because we all have our own expenses in our own life, and sometimes it's tough to get that. You're already spending $2,000 of your own money. So
Yeah.
trying to, you start getting up 3, 4, it gets expensive. And I think, and when you have the best employees in the whole world doing missions, the people that are doing missionary work, NGO contracts, guys that are going to Iraq, Syria, all these other places, last thing they need to worry about, they need their safety and they need the funds behind them to make sure they got the right equipment to go over there.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, you mentioned a foundation. Can you go into that a little bit deeper?
Yeah. So the big thing is when I was trying to create, I didn't know which way I wanted to go, and I'm still pretty small. So donor advisory funds, you can donate. You can have a fund that can go in there and your fund can grow in stock market. You can have it growing.
Okay.
And you donate to missions. Okay. And you can donate to foundations and you can donate to that. But now when you're the foundation, there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of things you need to come up with because you really need to justify why you are a nonprofit organization. So it takes a lot more of those funds. So, once we can get 50,000, 100,000 into our fund, now I have some guys, some CRNAs that are willing to kind of step in, but I said, you know what, let me prove myself to you guys first, get this thing rolling, get some money rolling. That way they have something to work with, because I want to make sure that they have the stuff to work with, because we'll have a board and all that other kind of stuff that you really need to have with a foundation.
Gotcha, man. Well, that's again, it amazes me how complex and complicated certain things that seem like they should be simple can be. But and it's the same thing with charity work and nonprofit organizations and whatnot. And I mean, I guess, I think about, the hospital that I worked at for years. It was a nonprofit, but like you talk about hospitals being nonprofit, and it's like, are they really? Like the CEO is making a couple $1 million a year. Is it really nonprofit?
Yeah.
So it just things, it fascinates me. But I want to just ask, before we wrap up, if you have any last pieces of advice to give to, any future inventors out there, or people that are looking to get into this, into mission work and everything. Because I know it was talked to me, like people that experienced it as a student going into mission work were more likely, by a lot, to actually do it when they later on became a CRNA.
Yeah.
And so,
I think it's CRNAs we have between like TNANG, CRNA, SRNAs, the inventors page that Diane Miller's got. There's missionary anesthesia CRNAs on a mission. I don't think it's too hard we really need to start bouncing ideas off of CRNAs out there. But don't be afraid, because you're going to hear a lot of no's. You're going to hear the good and you're going to hear the bad. And when you start getting when you start taking products to companies, there's a lot of companies that don't understand what anesthesia providers are going through. So you will hear some no's when you're going through that. And don't always be discouraged, but you got to take the bad with the good, because you just will hear a lot of no's.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking with Tom Beerball about that when he was doing the opiate free, you're going to hear a lot of no's, and there's people that are stuck in their ways on the way they do things, and not everybody's going to change to your way, but just keep chipping away. And if you believe in it and you think you think CRNAs can benefit and anesthesiologists, you think everybody can benefit from you, your hard work is going to pay off, and it's going to benefit people later on. And you just got to keep driving. When I did this whole thing with the product, it wasn't about just money. And if it was about money, I almost feel like I almost would have burned out, because when you start writing checks, you start writing checks and there's nothing coming back in from it. It is easy to get some self-doubt, but I just believe in the mission work, and you know what? I'm just keep plugging away, and I know that someday it's going to benefit people. And so that's what my goal is. I'm doing it for them. It's not just for me, because, it's all about how are you going to improve humanity in the future.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that you mentioned all of the resources that are available to people. There's so many different Facebook groups, that are topic specific, the CRNA inventors and the CRNAs on a mission and things like that people can really use the community of anesthetists and really, find what it is that, that they need to find out, and find the support that they need. Find people that have been through these kinds of things before.
Mm-hmm.
And it just,
there's CRNAs that most likely, there's, like you with the real estate stuff, there's plenty of CRNAs out there, and we have the resources. Yeah, go ahead and use them, because a lot of them are free.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
And the cool thing about CRNAs is they want to help CRNAs out, so when you think it's a chore, when you're thinking it's a chore and you're asking them questions, a lot of times they're like, man, I'm glad you asked, because I went through that whole thing, and it was a lot of self-doubt. There's all this other kind of stuff. So there's always a resource out there for you. So
yeah. No, cool, man. Well, I've really enjoyed this discussion, and I admire the work that you put into developing this airway, and I think it's gonna just take off, man. I wish you nothing but the best, and but I want to give people a chance to reach out to you specifically. So how can they get in touch with you?
I'll post my email address here. Otherwise, they can contact me on Facebook. Any questions you have, I'm glad to help.
Yeah, well, and we're going to put on the show notes the Paulsen Airway. It's basically what, www.paulsenairway.com.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they can get a hold of you for product information and things like that there. And then we'll put your other contact info in the show notes, man.
Yeah, you can for our product, we're already through all the major distributors. So Medline, all the major distributors that the hospitals are working with, we're already hooked up with them. So your purchasing person, all they'd have to do is to say contact Medline and Henry Schein, all those products, and they'll already have them.
Okay.
They'll already have them in stock. So
sweet. Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate you being here today. This has been great.
Yeah. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thank you for your time and your insight. I think you're going to help a lot of people.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Awesome. There was a lot of great advice in there from Heath, but none that I thought was more important than leaning on others in the anesthesia community. I learned early on that I could be much more successful by surrounding myself with people who were smarter than me and had experiences that I didn't have. Doing that now is easier than ever with various social media platforms that are available to connect us to each other. CRNAs are some of the smartest folks I know, and they are also great at solving problems. And that's really what innovation and invention are anyway. Don't be afraid to get out there and shake things up a bit. The world may thank you for it. That's going to do it for the show today. Make sure you reach out to Heath about the Paulsen Airway and his process by checking out the links in the show notes. This is Bobby Jones signing off. Until next time, be safe and take care of each other out there. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Plan B CRNA podcast. If you haven't already subscribed and reviewed the show, I'd be honored if you took the extra time. It really helps to expand our reach and get the word out about the show. If you're a CRNA who is interested in sharing your story on our podcast, I'd love to have you. Please email me at bobby@oncallinvestments.com for more information. This episode was brought to you by On-Call Capital. They are dedicated to helping providers like you develop passive income and generational wealth through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. Feel free to check out their website at www.oncallinvestments.com and subscribe to their free educational email series. You can find On-Call Capital on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also check out our YouTube page, where you'll find all of the show episodes along with other educational videos. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.